Let me tell you a story, a dramatic story that happened to me while I was doing the research.
Hmm.
So one day I was walking across a snowy, and I'm going to read this because it's the way I wrote the story about my experience.
Hmm.
I'm walking across a snowy and frozen landscape. I'm admiring the beauty of the snow-laden evergreen trees and the light patterns and the curves on the snow mounds between the trees. Just a really blissful thing. I'm traversing a wide and flat expanse of snow, surveying the scene with an inner sense of curiosity and tranquility. Suddenly, I find myself falling downward, and I realize that I have broken through some thin ice. I
Mm.
had been walking across a frozen body of water without realizing it. My entire body was plunged into the frigid water. Terrifying experience, as you can
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah.
I have it on several sheets here because I have some photos too. And
Mm.
air bubbles were streaming from my mouth, and I gasped at being submerged and unable to breathe. It was a really scary experience.
Yeah.
But then I woke up, still feeling the after effects of a shock-like reaction in my body.
Mm.
So I wrote that up on November 13th, 1999. It was towards the end of my research,
Hmm.
and it was a very, very powerful dream.
Mm.
I can still remember it vividly because it was that strong a dream.
Mm.
And what I realized very quickly, within minutes, when I kind of, woke up with a shock, was that what the water was, that frozen water was pain. It represented pain.
Mm. Mm.
And as I lay in bed reflecting, I had been through a particularly challenging day the day before in a home which was going through some real turmoil.
Hmm.
And I thought what that did was trigger in me a sense that these people are all in pain. And then I thought back and I said, actually, every single child that I've met is in pain. And yet the programs aren't talking about pain. They're
Mm.
talking about behavior. They're talking about how do we manage this child's behavior and what do we need to do to control this child or what boundaries
Mm.
do we need to set or whatever. But they never used the term pain. They talked about,
Mm.
the challenging behavior, the troubling behavior, and even the literature
Yeah.
generally talked about troubled and troubling children, right?
Mm.
Occasionally there were mentions of pain, but no one really was exploring it. And so that really overtook me. And I realized that at the heart of what I'm studying is pain.
Mm.
And when I analyzed my data, I realized the good programs actually look past the pain, look past the behavior into the pain.
Hmm. Yeah.
It didn't happen a huge amount of times, but when it happened, kids started to respond differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, this is a really important thing and I came up with the term pain-based behavior to try and
Mm.
redefine what people were calling problem behavior,
Hmm.
right? The problem with calling everything problem behavior is that you react to it personally.
Mm.
If you understand it's pain-based, you actually are much more empathic towards what's going on for the child. I need to
Absolutely.
understand where this pain is coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. The question that popped into my head is if you see it as problematic behavior, like who's got the problem?
Exactly. Exactly. And so anyway, that was a huge insight for me, and it's proven to actually be a huge insight for many.
Mm.
I've been quite surprised. I mean, it's entered the literature. Pain-based
Mm.
behavior is. I have a whole special issue of a journal I did with people talking about how they're using pain-based behavior.
Yeah.
Um, and Laura Steckley is one of those. So when she wrote a
Mm.
book, two chapters, I think, were on pain-based behavior.
Mm.
Martha Holt, Cornell has a couple of chapters on pain. New York State training talks about pain-based behavior now. And that was a
Mm.
word that didn't exist before. So
Mm.
I feel really gratified that
Mm.
that insight is actually proven to be really helpful.